What's up, guys? We have the World MMA Awards coming up on December 26th. Chris and I are going to review a few of the nominees and see who would be our picks for the winners. All right, first up, we got Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. Some of the nominees are Alexander Volkanovski, Gilbert Burns, Peter Yan, Willie Zhang, and Jorge Masvidal. All great nominees. You know, I can see a few that pop into my mind right away. Chris, who jumps out at you for 2020 breakout fighter?
Man, I'm gonna have to say Zhang or Yan. I like both of those picks. Yan, coming off, a couple huge wins and gaining the title. Beating Aldo the way he did. That's a great breakthrough year in my opinion. Having 3 wins this past year, and winning the title shot. It's hard to beat that. But then you have Zhang, who has been on a tear too, and
just for Andrade for the title.
Yeah, and then Johanna, right?
Yeah, fight of the year,
that fight was
wild.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard. I think the fighter of the year should be somebody who won the belt that year, like was coming like off.
This is breakthrough fighter of the year.
Yeah,
so there's also fighter of the year. So breakthrough.
Okay, all right.
So let's think maybe someone that wasn't quite on the radar, and now it's like, boom, they're here this year.
Yeah, I'm going to say Peter Yan because not too many people knew about him. You know what I mean? He just kind of jumped up on the scene, some new Russian fighter, and just took everyone by storm.
No, those are the two that jumped out of me were Peter and Willie Zhang. And I'm going to go with, is it Zhang or Zhang?
I'm going to go with Zhang.
Zhang. I'm going to say Zhang on this one because I had no idea. She took the world by storm. Whole new market for the UFC. That Joanna fight, I think, is fight of the year. It was absolutely epic, or up there in the top of them. And she's a great fighter, and she brings a lot of notoriety to the women's side of the sport. Peter, I think, is the close second. And, of course, I also like Jorge, too, because he was coming off a couple losses. Then he strung together these 3 wins with some epic knockouts of Darren Till and Ben Askren we all know about. But I'm going to go Willie Zhang on this one. Kudos to her. She definitely broke through this year, and I think she's going to be around for a long time. All right, next we got Fight of the Year for 2020. So, ton of great fights. Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker, epic battle, epic fight. Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum. That was an absolute ridiculous war. Famous words by Israel. He said, "I'm prepared to die," in the 3rd round of that fight, which is just some movie shit going on. Next, we got Kamaru Usman versus Kobe Covington. Also a great fight. Took it to the very end until Kobe got finished, broke his jaw in that fight, and the promotion up to that was just ridiculous. Our very own Josh Emmett here from Team Alpha Male versus Shane Burgos. That was a big fight too. I was on the edge of my seat for that fight. I'm glad to see that make the list. That was definitely an epic fight. Kudos to Josh for getting on the list. And then last, we got Willie Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And that one, Joanna had this hematoma on her forehead just bursting out. Slugfest back and forth. You didn't know who was going to win. They just took so many shots. One of the most entertaining fights, I've ever seen. A woman's bout that was just, I love to see it on the list for the best fight of the year. That just shows you how far these women's divisions have come from.
That was a great fight.
Not being on the roster now to being one of the best fights of the year. So out of these 5 fights, if you can rate them, just like last time, what are the 2 that pop out to you? And what was your experience? Do you remember watching those fights, where you were at watching them? And then what do you like for the fight of the year?
Yeah, I remember watching all of these, and this is really hard to pick because all of them were just epic fights. Yeah. As far as fight of the year, I'm gonna just take off the Josh Emmett Shane Burgos fight just because I think it was one-sided in my opinion. Josh was blew his knee out in the first round, and he took some shots from Shane, but for the
wasn't
most
as much back and forth.
No, I thought it was one-sided. Performance of the year, maybe, fighting on a blown out knee and just, tagging up a dangerous dude like Shane. I thought it was a great performance by Josh, but for me, a fight a year has to be a fight that's going back and forth. There's stand up, there's the ground game, and it's a full mix of MMA. And for me, it's either going to be Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum. that fight. Dude, that fight was insane,
so wild.
Right? And then it's hard not to throw in the Zhang and Joanna fight because, like you said, that big hematoma on the forehead.
She kept coming.
Coming at it, and it was literally just like, just a back and forth. These girls had they weren't holding anything back. Like they were going all 5 rounds, every minute of every round, and they didn't hold anything back. If I were to pick one, I'm just gonna give it to the females, man, just because I think they deserve it and they need to get that notoriety.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. I will mention the Israel Kelvin Gastelum fight. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings, and that place was going wild. I was having my spicy buffalo wings, cold beer. This shows you it was pre times right now, but at the time that was the best fight I've ever seen in my life. And now coming to Zhang versus Young Jacek, I mean, I couldn't believe these girls were taking these shots back and forth. I thought Joanna was coming back to win that fight. Zhang would take a couple deep breaths, and it's like she got another, got her win back under her, and we'll come right back. It was so, when I think of a fight of the year, you're thinking one fighter's going to win it, and then as you think the other fight's going to, it's this kind of emotional swing it brings you on as the viewer. And for me, that fight was just so epic. So I'm going to have to go with the ladies, like you mentioned. I think no doubt they're going to win it on December 26th. They're going to call Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Willie Zhang as the fight of the year, deservingly so. But big kudos to all 5 fights on this.
Yeah, all these are great fights.
Just shows you how many epic fights there are. I think there are even a few more we could add, but these were epic. I'll definitely never forget in my life that Israel Kelvin fight. But big kudos to Zhang and Joanna. All right, next up we got the knockout of the year. So this is always epic. Of course, the UFC always likes to see good knockouts. They give out KO bonuses for every card. It's a big part of the entertainment factor of the fight cards. Dana's, really about it. He wants to see you guys get the finish, get the TKO, get the knockout, get the epic submission. And, of course, all the fight fans like to see an epic KO. It's a big reason people tune in. And we had some epic ones this year. Anthony Pettis versus Wonderboy Thompson, losing that fight, jumps off the cage and hits a flying Superman KO that Wonderboy didn't see coming, and really scary knockout. It knocked him out completely unconscious to where he couldn't even remember that he was fighting that day. So that was kind of a scary knockout. Good to see Wonderboy get a big win and back in the mix and fully there. Another one we have Cody Garbrandt versus Rafaela Sun Sal. This was another scary one. I mean, with just a few seconds left in the round,
that's
gets
a buzzer.
Swinging right hook KO. We'll touch on that more in a second. Chris was actually in Cody's corner for that fight, so we'll get kind of the behind-the-scenes look on how that played out. Then we have Douglas Lima versus Michael Venom Page. One of my favorite fighters is Michael Venom Page, so this really, hurt
your heart,
my heart to see this. It was kind of a weird KO where he fell down, was going to a knee, and just kudos to Douglas Lima, that right hook, and just put him out. So definitely a big KO. This is the only KO that's outside the UFC promotion. That was from the Bellator promotion. So that was a great knockout. The other one, this was in 2019, so I don't know why this is on the list, but we have Jorge Maskeval versus Ben Askren. I mean, another time I would say this is definitely the winner. Everyone knows the flying knee. 5 seconds into the fight, KO over Ben Askren. Just an absolutely epic KO. So that really propelled Jorge into his massive stardom, virality of that KO. The last one, Sugar Sean O'Malley, on the same card as Cody Garbrandt's KO. He gets Eddie Wyland in a nice knockout, walk-off knockout, which always makes it epic when you hit the knockout and you just walk away. So out of those 5 fights, again, what are the 2 that pop out at you that we could talk about a little bit? And then who's your pick for KO of the year?
Yeah.
I know.
This is super hard, right? All right, so we got to talk about the Masvidal Ben Askren.
Yeah.
Like, I know that happened in 2019, but it's hard not to pick that one just because of the lead up to the fight, the trash talk, and just the running, sprinting, flying knee within seconds. Like, it's hard to top. You know what I mean? And like, just to walk, it's hard to top. But then I got my boy Cody Garbrandt with the right hand knockout at the buzzer, and then he just starched Rafael, and I don't think a Sun Sal has ever been KO'd.
Yeah.
So that was like a great fight. If you watched that fight, I got pretty hyped afterwards. I jumped up into my seat because like thinking the round's about to end, you're about to go give your fighter some in between rounds advice, and like boom. He lands that because honestly in my mind I was like, what is Cody doing? Like he was like
'Cause
bending
he dropped
down.
He dropped his
He, like,
hands.
bend down like his back was against the cage. I was like, Cody, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah,
And he
whoa.
was like, yeah. I was like, hey, do your thing, man. Do
Yeah,
your
right.
thing. But
That was wild.
yeah, it's kind of hard, man. Like for 2020, I'm gonna go with Cody Garbrandt, Rafaela Sun Sal. But since Jorge Masvidal is in the mix, even though it's not 2020, I'm gonna have to pick that Ben Askren knee, man. It's hard not to.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Those two fights jump out. Another one is Anthony Pettis jumps out to me just because he was such an underdog coming in that fight. You know, he fought up in a weight class. He took on Wonderboy Thompson, who's just super skilled fighter coming in that fight, and he was losing that fight to that point. And so that just, I think that adds on to the story and how epic that KO was. And to put on top of it that it was a flying Superman punch was pretty epic. So that one stands out. Cody Garbrandt walk-off KO, just the right hook from hell was just crazy. That pops out at me. But I think who the winners is going to be, it's going to be Jorge Masvidal. It's hard to beat that, 5-second sprinting flying knee. I think that flying knee is going to live on in the history of MMA. I'm sure Ben Askren's not too happy about it, but there's going to be posters and awards and memories of that KO for the next 50 years plus in the UFC. It's that epic. So kudos to Jorge. I think he's going to get that win coming up on the 26th.
Yeah, me too. Sorry to say all the other guys because they're all great knockouts.
Yep. All right. Next up, we got the comeback fighter of the year. So Cody Garbrandt makes this list again for his career comeback. He's coming off. He came off a 3-fight skid. Getting back in the mix and a super tough opponent against Rafaela Sun Sal, a guy that's never been finished. Cody's a big knockout artist. He did end up getting the potential KO of the year in that fight. So I definitely think he deserves to be on this list. A lot of mentality shift coming into it, and they know it had to be a lot of pressure. Chris, I know I got you here, who's a quarter man for Cody Garbrandt. You guys had to be feeling the pressure coming in that fight. Don't want to lose 4 in a row. Cody's just so talented. You guys are so talented in his corner. And so quickly, how did that feel after that, rough road to get that huge comeback win?
It was amazing. As a coach and guy, cornering Cody, like I knew the pressure behind that. The 2 losses, the TJ, the loss to Munoz, and you're in a dark place after losing like that. Especially at the highest level. Being champ and coming off of 3 losses. You got a new kid in the picture. You got a baby. So I think Cody had to do a lot of soul searching, before this fight and kind of get, his mental right. He changed some things up. He started working with Mark Henry and, working on some things with those guys out there on the East Coast. And I think just that mental and training change that he made up was what he needed, for that big KO win. Just that little that change, a couple adjustments, and we're right back on track.
Yeah. Seems like his mind's right. He's all about getting his health right. So I'm excited for him to get back in the mix. So that's for Cody for his comeback of his career. And now these next fighters is their comeback in the fight. So one, we got Eddie Alvarez, his fight against Eduardo Floriang. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that name. Then we got Rosenstrike's comeback against Alex Overeem, which was a just nasty comeback in the late round. I watched this fight. Overeem was winning every round. He was winning the fight, and that's probably one of the nastiest cuts I've seen in the UFC.
Lip. His lip was, if you watch that fight at the end, like his lip was totally gashed, probably like an inch long. That
was a nasty cut, and great comeback by Rosenstrike. Definitely deserves to be on the list. We got Peter Quelly versus Ryan Scope for his comeback in a separate promotion. Lastly, we got Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 2, which Daniel was on his way to win that fight as well. And a great comeback by Stipe. He ended up winning the 3rd fight as well. So you can say in 2020 he had the ultimate comeback from losing his belt, then beating the guy twice that took it from him. So these fights, the comeback in fight is kind of interesting compared to Cody Garbrandt in his career. I would say that Rosenstrike was really impressive, kind of the puncher's chance mentality. He had a chance to get back in the fight. Sad to see from Alex Overeem because I'm a fan of Overeem, but kudos to Rosenstrike to get that. It's kind of that last minute win. It reminds me of the Black Beast when he had his comeback win against. Who was that against? Gosh,
He's had a couple comeback wins.
I think Volkov. I'll have to look back on that, but he had a crazy comeback win within the last 10 seconds of the fight too. And it's always, you always have that puncher's chance. And when it's winding down the last 20 seconds of the fight, it's always crazy to see him swing for the fences. And every once in a while, it lands right. But I'm gonna go with Cody on this one. I'm a little biased. I'm a huge fan of all the Team Alpha Male guys. Of course, we shoot this show out of Team Alpha Male in Sacramento, and for Cody to come back after a 3-fight skid. Not only a 3-fight skid, but the popularity and notoriety he has in the UFC and in his personal life with his personal brand. There had to be a lot of haters and a lot of trolls out there. And so he had to block all that out, hone in with his team and on his skill set. And to come back in and put on that type of performance where it gets put up as KO of the year and all this opportunity comes flooding to him, he literally just did a 180 spin of his career, and he's right back on track to get right back to the title. So I'm giving comeback of the year is going to go to Cody Garbrandt.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Let's go, Cody. Let's get these MMA awards, man.
Stack them up. All right, next up we got Analysts of the Year. So I thought this was pretty interesting. A lot of UFC fighters on this list. And for me, who consumes a ton of UFC media, I listen to these guys all the time. Most of them have their individual podcasts. And, of course, they're doing commentating for the UFC. And they're always in the UFC media, whether it be on social media, during the live events, or interviewing fighters, etc. All of them deserve to be on the list. We got Dan Hardy, former UFC fighter, now commentating the fights. Daniel Cormier, who's doing some extra work with the ESPN and his show with Ariel Helwani, along with his commentating. Michael Bisping, who's been doing a great job with his color commentating. He's always fun to listen to. I love listening to Michael. He always gives you kind of his raw take on the fight, which I appreciate as a viewer. Then you got Paul Felder, who's really jumped on the scene and done a lot. He's been an analyst for quite some time now, but I really feel like he's honing in on his craft and taking it really, really seriously. I like to see John Anik on this list, but Paul Felder is just excellent analyst as well.
How is Robin Black over John Anik?
Then we got Robin Black. So this is one outside the UFC promotion who does analyst for Bellator.
Gotcha.
Maybe they had
bad.
Put in maybe they wanted to squeeze in another promotion. And Robin Black does a great job in his own right. I don't consume as much as his content. I do see his 1-minute breakdowns that are always hilarious when he posts those. But out of these guys, I see Daniel Cormier on his phone texting during live events, and I know he's getting feedback from other people. I see him at some points lost when he's talking to Ariel Helwani or changing subjects too quick. And this is me, the viewers may, what the hell do you know? DC's great. This is me being super analytical and trying to pick who I think is the best, right? Dan Hardy's great, and I like his media as well. For me, I'm going to have to go with Paul Felder on this. I always think he speaks really well. His timing's great on video. He breaks down the fight with extreme knowledge, of course, being a fighter himself. And I don't know if this counts, but him jumping in and saving UFC Fight Night versus RDA and jumping in on 5 days' notice. I mean, how can you not give that guy Employee of the Year after doing something like that and saving the UFC millions of dollars and jumping in and keeping that promotion going? But on his pure analyst side, I think he's to the point. And he has great timing, like I said. He's a great interviewer. I'm going Paul Felder on this for Analyst of the Year. Who pops out to you, Chris, and who do you think deserves to win it?
Man, all these are really tough choices. You got the best analysts, the best fighters, the best KOs of the year. It's hard to pick. I'm a huge fan of Daniel Cormier, not only in the fight stuff, but his commentating, and I always get a kick of his jokes and him going back and forth with Bisping, and he can kind of talk about anything. And then you got Bisping, who's like more raw, like you said. He kind of tells it like it is, and he'll kind of go back and forth with some of the commentators, like, wait a minute, like, no, like, and kind of like shoot him straight, like, so he's not afraid to like speak his mind. I really like that about Bisping, but it's hard to pick against Felder just because, like, how can you be doing such a good job doing all this commentating and then just jump in and fight, save a card, and then like next week you're back on the table like doing it again? So I'm gonna go with Paul Felder myself, even though Bisping and Cormier are like right there. Only reason I'm gonna give it to Felder is I think he's newer to the analyst stuff compared to Daniel and Michael. I think they've been doing it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So for him just jumping on the scene, doing as well as he's doing, still fighting, main events. I'm going with Paul Felder. Great job, bro. Keep it up.
Next up, we have leading man of the year. And now, there's a lot of guys in the running. Of course, they're pulling the presidents from all the promotions, one championship, PFL, Scott Coker from Bellator, etc. But the only guy that deserves to be on this list, they might as well wipe out everyone else and just leave the number one guy, Dana White, my man Dana White, Uncle Dana, because he's a guy that came in, saved the day, kept the UFC alive, didn't lay off a single UFC employee. Got these fighters fights, ran 41 events in 2020. His average for events and promotions throughout the year is 40 events a year. So he actually hit his average, didn't hold up at all. 11 pay-per-views. That just shows me that, hundreds of fighters got paid. The promotions got done. He ran thousands and thousands of COVID tests to rely on safety of the fighters, rented out full hotels to build this bubble and really help with the safety of the fighters. I mean, he stepped up in the media, all ends, created UFC Fight Island. I can go on and on how Dana stepped up to keep this promotion alive and helped out so many people. So no doubt leading man of the year goes to Dana White. How does it feel on your side, Chris, since you get decided, I mentioned the hotels that he rented out and the tests he's doing for the fighters. You went through these tests as a quarter man. You stayed in these hotels. You got to see what it's like behind the scenes during this 2020 times firsthand. So how was it to you? Did it make you feel pride of, working with the UFC? And, why is Dana White the leading man of the year?
Yeah, there's nothing like working and being involved in the UFC events. There's no other events that compare. Just the professionalism, just everything, the staff, just the way things work, just like clockwork. And if you want to give a leading man award, it's got to go to Dana White. Yeah. Making all these shows happen when no other sport, nothing else was on TV, getting through all these obstacles and making all these fighters money and continuing to put on the show and entertain everyone. That's a leader to me. And also, I still remember you buying me that lap dance, Dana. So your leading man award, man, it goes to you.
Dang, I'm going to have to get the story behind that off air. But that's epic. And the one thing you mentioned I didn't say is the entertainment factor. So we had all these people going through, depression and losing their jobs and trying to stick with it. And during this crazy time. And I don't know about you, Chris, but when I flick on the UFC event, it's kind of like all that goes away. I'm just entertained by these fights and these most high-level mixed martial artists in the world. So that entertainment factor is huge. He was entertaining the world while all other sports were shut down, basketball, football, everything down. UFC was the entertainment mecca of the world, and Dana White was leading it. So
you're the man, Dana.
You're the man, leading man of the year. And the last nominees we'll review are the Ring Girls of the Year. So, Chris, we got 5 ladies on this card.
Making it hard for me, aren't you?
It's making it tough. The ones that stand out, of course, of our UFC ring girls, Britney Palmer, Carly Baker. And then on the other side, we got the Bellator ring girl. I'm familiar with Mercedes Tyrell. I follow her on Instagram. She's a great follow. Guys out there, definitely give Mercedes a follow. And it's hard what they're judging this on. I looked up, the criteria if it was for background charity events or how they contribute outside the ring, but it's really for just their execution of holding the cards and walking around the ring. And
how many kisses they blew in between rounds, or how many eye winks did they give?
So, yeah, I mean, Britney Palmer's great at the eye wink. Carly's great also. We got Jenny Andrade, Louise McKee. Out of all these lovely ladies here, who's your pick as the ring girl of the year?
I'm going to be biased because only one I personally know, and I don't know her that well, is Britney Palmer. Briefly was around when she was working one of the shows and got to see she's into art. She does art. She's super creative. And it's always cool to see, like, these girls are just not good looking, but they also have, like, other talents outside of the ring card stuff. So it kind of, it's kind of weird to me when the girl is just, like, totally banking on her looks and her body, and that's, like, has no personality, has no type of passion outside of that. So I'm going to go with Britney Palmer. She's been around the UFC for a very long time. She looks like she's a loyal employee, loyal ring card girl. I'm going with Britney Palmer.
Yeah, I like that. Britney Palmer, she is a super talented artist. She has this painting of Biggie Smalls that I was like thinking about getting for a while. She sells them. She does a lot of cool stuff. Tupac, Biggie Smalls. She did Lenny Kravitz or Jimi Hendrix one time. That was really cool. And she's no doubt super talented. Mercedes Tyrell is also she's the entrepreneurial mentality on the side with her business.
I have to give her a follow.
You're going to have to give her a follow. She's great as well. But we got to stay loyal. We are a UFC fight pick show. I got to go Britney Palmer. And, man, I think, Chris, I know you're a single guy. Maybe you should be sliding in those DMs here in the next couple of weeks. Shoot your shot. I could tag her in the description of this video. Brittany and Chris. I like the ring of that. Maybe not. Okay, we'll hold back on Chris. But, okay, we're going for the ring girl of the year, Britney Palmer. Throw that on your record, Brittany. That'd be a great one to have. All right, guys, those are our MMA award picks. But what are your picks? Do you agree or disagree with us? Please leave a comment in the comment section below and let us know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys.